Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everyone doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Happy
Happy
Saturday.
November.
Happy Saturday and November.
Yeah, it is. It is first day of November. Can you believe it? Where did October go? Well, we're going to hear a little bit about the end of October with some docket items here, and I'll get to that in a moment. But for those of you that are new to Voices of Health Point, this is times on Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So it's an hour where those of us that are involved with Health Point, either as coaches or clients, or prospective clients, can join in live if they want to. Just check with the person that you know or share the link and you can join in live. Those that don't or can't join in live, these episodes do get uploaded onto YouTube under Voices of Health Point. So just search Voices of Health Point and you can find all the episodes. I think we're at around 113 or 14 episodes or something. So there's a robust library there for sure. So the way we usually get started is we've got some known docket items. That is just some talks that some kind of want to go through, and we'll go through that, and then we kind of open it up to just a lot of round robin discussion. That's really where the fun and magic and the tapestry of all the different perspectives kind of comes in. So let's go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to do a docket item called Navigating Health Point Across Cultures. So that will become more clear and evident as I get into that. We've got Carol Zampa that is going to give a short talk on HollowCLEAN. Carol is always so great on not only kind of the play on words, but just how it reframes things, right, in our mind. And HollowCLEAN, I think, is going to be a representation of that. And then we've got Alex that is going to be doing a docket item on why an athlete needs Health Point. And man, nobody better than Alex. I can't wait to hear more from Alex. I know of him a little bit, but man, I can't think of anyone more qualified to be talking about why an athlete needs Health Point than Alex, because he is quite the athlete for sure. So, well, let's get rolling. I'm going to open up with my docket item. And again, it's called Navigating Health Point Across Cultures. So if you're a Health Point coach, you've probably faced this moment. A prospective client reaches out for help with blood sugar, weight loss, or metabolic health, and you suddenly realize their food culture looks very different from your own. Maybe they grew up in a home where rice, roti, or noodles were central to every meal. Maybe they came from a tradition where food isn't just nourishment, it's identity, comfort, and community. You might catch yourself wondering, how can I possibly help them make changes without asking them to give up who they are? And if you're that prospective client, you might feel the same hesitation in reverse. You may be thinking, how could I ever do this program and still honor my food culture? After all, food connects us to family, heritage, and belonging. It's not just about macros and meal plans. This is where understanding context matters. Culture and ethnicity shape not just what people eat, but how they eat, when they eat, and how they move. When we approach a conversation about balanced meals or blood sugar management in Health Point, it's not simply a nutrition discussion, it's a human one. But here's the reality. While the type of food may sound the same, the form, quantity, and context have changed dramatically. Let's look specifically at rice culture, for example. 2 or 3 generations ago, if you look at what people were eating in places like Vietnam, China, or India, the rice itself was different. It wasn't the uniform, highly polished white rice we find in supermarkets today. It was hand or stone milled, often leaving a thin layer of bran and natural oils intact, what we now call semi-polished or brown rice. That traditional rice had more fiber, more minerals, and a gentler effect on blood sugar. It also came from local, diverse strains, nutrient-dense varieties that supported people who were physically active all day long. Fast forward to today, and most of the rice we see in America is ultra refined, stripped of its bran and nutrients for longer shelf life and a whiter appearance. The result is a food that digests faster, spikes blood sugar more easily, and provides far less nourishment per bite. The same kind of shift happened with bread. The slow, fermented, whole grain loaves of the path have been replaced by soft, fast rising white breads that look the same, but act very differently in the body. And then there's the bigger picture, lifestyle, which is lifestyle. Individuals of 2 or 3 generations ago didn't, quote, work out, but they worked hard. They often walked several miles a day, tending fields, fetching water, cooking from scratch. Their metabolic engines were burning from dawn to dusk. Their meals, though simple, were earned through movement. The first generation that immigrated to America experienced an overnight environmental shift. Suddenly, there were supermarkets filled with endless inner aisles, packaged snacks, sugary drinks, and frozen meals that didn't exist back home. It wasn't the rice that changed the most, it was everything else surrounding it. The sauces became sweeter, the portions grew larger, the side dishes turned ultra-processed. What work moved from the fields to the factory or the office. Instead of walking to the village store, people drove to Costco. Instead of gathering outside after dinner, they sat on the couch with a screen. The rice itself wasn't the problem. It simply became part of a very different metabolic environment. Statistically speaking, the urgency is clear. Studies show that among adult Indian populations, for example, the prevalence of metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of conditions including elevated blood pressure, waist circumferences, high blood sugar, and abnormal lipids, that ranges around 30% overall, and in urban settings can reach 40% or more. This means nearly 1 in 3 adults are grappling with hidden metabolic risks, regardless of body weight. And when combined with hypertension and type 2 diabetes, the risk of stroke or heart attack can double or triple. So when someone says, quote, I eat rice because I'm Asian, it's worth pausing on what that really means. Yes, rice is culture, but are they eating the same kind of rice, in the same amount, and in the same lifestyle context as their grandparents? Usually not. Back then, a serving of rice was much smaller. In traditional rice cultures, a typical serving was often closer to a quarter cup of cooked rice, not a heaping bowl, and it wasn't eaten at every meal. Today, in contrast, people eat larger servings more often with fewer protective lifestyle factors. In HealthPoint, especially during menu plan days, which is days 4 through 28, where the goal is 50 to 100 net carbs per day, portion control and frequency matter far more than complete elimination. Reducing a serving from a half a cup to a quarter cup of cooked rice can easily cut about 12 net carbs from a meal. A small change, but a powerful shift that keeps metabolism in a fat burning zone. HealthPoint helps bring awareness back to all of that. It's not about giving up culture. It's about reclaiming the parts that kept people healthy before modern convenience hijacked the menu. The freshness, the moderation, the daily movement, the shared meals made from real ingredients. When we coach someone whose heritage is steeped in traditional foods, we're not saying no to those foods. We're helping them rediscover the wisdom their ancestors already lived by. Smaller portions, real ingredients, daily motion, and a sense of balance over deprivation. The truth is, human DNA has not changed over the past few generations. What has changed is the environment, and that is what people now have the power to redesign. So whether the plate includes rice, naan, or noodles, the key is to eat it with mindfulness, with the same respect earlier generations did, as part of a life that includes sweat, sunlight, and simplicity. That's how we navigate HealthPoint across cultures, not by rejecting tradition, but by returning to its roots. All right, guys, that is it for my segment on that. I run into that a lot, guys, and for those that are not familiar, I feel particularly qualified to talk on this because, and I think she's on here. My wife, Emily, is first generation Vietnamese. So, in fact, I think she's probably running this morning, so she may comment on this or not. But again, this is directly in our household. I run into it a lot. And so I thought it would be a fun topic to kind of unpack a little bit. So if anybody's got any comments or questions, go ahead and chime in, and then we'll move to the next docket items.
Eric, am I mistaken, or in these cultures, do they have stores and shops specifically for that culture? Say a Vietnamese store. They're usually small family-owned stores that carry better products also rather than your typical grocery store. I don't know this, but it seems like I see them from time to time on different plazas.
Yeah, there is certainly, you can see, like, I know here in Michigan, where we're at in East Lansing, I think partly because it's also a college town, so you have a lot of different ethnicities there. I'm sure you find the same things in Ann Arbor, etc. But when you get in and around the wherever there's a marketplace, there's going to be a store that kind of serves that. Same like with the restaurants. And I think there often is more choices that are, we'll just say, what's the word I'm thinking of, that like heritage type choices. But I got to tell you, a lot of it is just mass imported, mass produced, same, I got to tell you, if not worse. I mean, some of the stuff that is, you just see these pallets of like boxes and bags of stuff. They're going to have, like, for example, in the Asian stores, Emily and I will go into that a bit, either in Grand Rapids or in East Lansing. There might be, more varieties of fish, that are available there. That's kind of what, stands out most. But then their inner aisles are, quite frankly, kind of worse than a Kroger inner aisle.
Okay, that's good. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, I wasn't sure on those.
This is Emily, and I can echo what Eric just mentioned. He absolutely right, Carol. There are small Vietnamese or Asian grocery store throughout, but you hardly find anything organic there. And a lot of stuff's imported from Asia, from Asian countries, and their expiration dates very questionable. Yourself, sometimes you check the dates and why they still on the shelf. So I hardly go to those stores. Now my parents living with me, once in a while I have to go there to find specific thing for them. But since 2017, when we on this journey, healthy journey, I don't need to go there. I can find a lot of great stuffs in American grocery store.
Okay,
Yeah.
that thank you for that, because that was my first thought, was how authentic are those in those stores. So thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Great perspective. Yes, Hank.
I can pitch in a little bit, and not so much about rice, but where I came from, pasta and bread was part of everyday meal. And people were not fat because, again, they walked to stores and had a whole different lifestyle. Not sit around, no packaged foods. We didn't even know what packaged food was. And a bit of wine with pasta and bread every meal at dinner time. It was our lifestyle. A lot of fish. So again, it's the culture and it's the way you live and what you put into your body aside from real food.
Yeah, I love that perspective, Hank. And that's Malta, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a little island in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, gorgeous looking island. I've looked at it before, like on like Google Maps and stuff. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous looking place. But yeah, and I've heard this before about, for example, like the breads, bread that you buy in pretty much any grocery store is going to be, they're optimizing for fast production, shelf stability, those types of things, lowest costs. I mean, it is what it is. Whereas probably the bread and pasta that you grew up with, Hank, was, of course, made in the traditional manner where, you knead the dough and it sits on the counter and rises and then it's kneaded again, or whatever they call that. I think that's what they call it, where they kind of pound it and punch it and roll it around.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't, is that the process?
That's exactly right, Eric, because we bought the bread every morning from the baker.
Mm-hmm.
And he just made it through the night. So it's not the packaged bread. You go buy a loaf of bread that was freshly baked through the night before. So whole big difference.
Yeah. And, a little bit of a tangent topic, but I don't know the details on this. So if I'm misspeaking, I'll just acknowledge this right now. Maybe somebody on here knows more about this, but when you hear about struggles with gluten, and that, as I understand it, in the traditional way of, say, making a bread, that gives, as I understand it, that it's kind of feeding on the, it's got that yeast in there and so forth, and you've got that protein in there, and that's part of that enzymatic action that is breaking down that protein. Whereas if you've got a loaf of Wonder Bread, just some sort of fast rise bread that has been, put together and, squished onto a store shelf, it didn't go through that process where that protein is being broken down. And I've been told, again, I haven't researched this myself, but when it comes to issues with gluten and, some people that have gluten allergies or problems with gluten, probably not to the degree of like celiac, but, just a discomfort that comes from gluten, if they are overeating, or if they're eating bread that is more like what you grew up with in Malta, Hank, I believe they don't have that same problem. It's an entirely different product in that context.
That's right. There's no preservatives and there's nothing like that. It's just the packaged stuff is the scary stuff.
Right. Yep.
Eric,
So yeah. Yes.
I have a question then. You're talking about cross cultures regarding health point. Then, although like on the regular meal day, you would not ordinarily have rice with dinner. You just have your vegetables, your fruit, your protein, and that kind of thing. So do your clients typically have the quarter cup of rice? Do they include rice with their meals? All that kind of thing?
Yeah, they could. Again, it's where you kind of just get into the math. And you're right, Pam, is that when you look at, well, let's just kind of segment it out. First of all, in the jumpstart days, the 3 protein days, all of that is off the radar. So let's just be clear on that. And so we're talking about not only days 4 through 28, but we can look at, also weeks 5 and week 6, and then also into lifetime maintenance. So, so once you get through the jumpstart days, it's about, what is the total net carbs, which is your total carbohydrates minus fiber. And if it is a processed food, also minus sugar, alcohol, but let's just say total carbohydrates minus fiber equals your net carbs. And that number for most people depends, as I say, man or woman, 6'7" or 5'2", that all can determine that, your own bio-individuality, but it's generally going to be around 50 to 100 net carbs. Usually women are closer to 50 and many men can be closer to 100. So let's just kind of establish that. And then if we're talking about days 4 through 28, first of all, like in the morning, you can have a grain. Okay, so
Right.
That's where you could be having that. But then in the other portions of the day, if they're going to have it, you'd probably want to have less, because a quarter cup is going to be around 12 net carbs, again, depending upon the variety and so forth. So that doesn't sound like much, but it can, you know, it can add up along with everything else that you're having with your vegetables and small piece of fruit and stuff like that. But if you tally that up and it's getting in there, and clocking in at 63 net carbs, you're going to do fine. If it's clocking in at 163 net carbs, then that you're not going to be fine. I don't care whether it's rice or Krispy Kreme donuts. You're not, the math is not working inside your body to do that. So we often kind of like look with a slanted eye towards some of the choices that are listed for breakfast. Sometimes we do, some of the cereals and stuff that are in there. And I think there's a reason that's in there. But the point is that, to your question, Pam, is there is, you can have a small piece of toast, you can have a little bit of cereal or what have you. So there's grains in that, throughout the day.
Right. And actually then that would be great for those people who do love rice. And I'm one of those people, for example, making it ahead of time so it can then sit in the refrigerator for that day. So it can be the resistant starch. So that would even be better for, for the glucose in your body, so it would be resistant starch then. So good to know. I like
yes. Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are wondering what Pam is referring to, go back to a previous episode. I think it was probably a couple of episodes or so that Steve in particular really unpacked that, what what Pam is talking about in terms of resistant starch. But yes, that is a nice little tip and trick. And so just to be clear to everyone that is like trying to figure things out or new or whatever, this is consistent with Health Point. This isn't, adapting Health Point. Health Point shows that you can have, these grains, in your breakfast, but it also talks about the numbers in terms of your net carbs. So this is very much in line with that. And, to the point of this narrative piece with cultures, it's what I'm trying to reflect is what I used to experience, and I imagine other coaches experience, which is you have someone of a rice culture in particular, or it could be a bread culture like Hank, from Malta or parts of Europe, or pasta. Now, let's be clear. We're not going to sit down to, bowls and bowls of pasta or rice or bread. We're going to get the body more metabolically healthy. And the argument here, or the point here, is this is actually more in line with how the culture originally was, but in just 1 or 2 generations and plopping into America, where the rice is not the problem, the bread is not the problem. The problem is the quantity, the quality, and the abundance of other processed foods in the inner aisles of the grocery stores, not to mention all the fast foods and so forth like that, the McDonald's and other things where, by the time people wrap up their day, they're consuming, 300-400 net carbs a day, thousands of calories. It's not, the rice is not the problem. The rice is not the boogeyman. You go back to your original, culture of how that was consumed, how people lived, and you're going to do fine on Health Point, particularly with all the other things that Health Point brings aligned, a more clear understanding of those macronutrients, getting adequate protein, making sure you're getting the adequate protein in there, getting that consistent movement, getting the supplementation, getting the hydration, getting the community. And some of these numbers that are on an absolute upward trajectory amongst particularly the rice cultures of India, Southeast Asia, and so forth that are here in the United States, those numbers are unbelievable in terms of the illness that is falling on these beautiful, brilliant people. So that's the point of this message. All right.
A different rabbit hole.
All right.
When I first started Health Point, my hardest thing was salads, and especially the lettuce. And so, and to this day, I have to I have the mental, I've had enough orange dots in my head that I can tell myself when I eat this salad, I'm going to feel great for the next 2-3 hours. And if I eat my other choice, whatever it probably could be, I probably won't. And so in the Asian culture, is lettuce part of their culture?
Well, Emily can, again, I don't know if Emily took a break from running or what she's doing right now. So anybody can, chime in on this, but I can tell you what I experience is, in fact, we were just talking with somebody. Who were we talking with, Emily? It might've been yesterday. We were talking with somebody. Yes. Okay. It was one of our neighbors. So we were walking around for Halloween, and it was specifically about cilantro, but it kind of unpacked, to your question, David, that when you sit down to a traditional Vietnamese meal, which is what I'll speak to, especially when Emily and I were over in Vietnam, I'll tell you this. I mean, this was the front lines. Now, granted, it's in modern era, not 100 years ago, but you have a lot of greens. You have a lot of greens. I mean, what we were talking about last night with our neighbors is most Vietnamese meals, we were talking about cilantro. It'll have cilantro in there. And this person was like, "Ooh, I love cilantro," and so you're going to have a lot of fresh herbs and fresh greens. So yes, there's a lot of lettuce and, maybe not like iceberg lettuce, but there will be various greens. There will be mint, cilantro, what's the other one? Bean sprouts, a lot of bean sprouts type of stuff in there. So yes, when you sit down to a Vietnamese meal, there's often this large plate of just greens that, and in the kind of tradition, you just kind of reach in with your chopsticks or however you do it and kind of grab that, and you're adding that to your protein. Maybe you have a small bowl of protein that is kind of stir fried or what have you, and you've got this chicken or fish or whatever, and you got that small bit of protein, but you're mixing it with these greens that you're putting on your plate. So, and again, maybe there's a small amount of rice, but there's not, a garbage can full of rice there. It's a small amount of rice that kind of infuses into the meal.
Hey, Eric, I can
Yes.
chime in. On this a little bit. Yeah, so I have been away for over 30 years. When I lived there, I lived there until I was 18 years old. So every meal, so we have 3 meals a day. Morning very simple, but lunch and dinner always family sat down and had lunch and dinner together. And every meals we make sure that we have a salty dish and the vegetable dish. So the vegetable dish can be a lot of green, like dark green colors growing up. That's what I remember. We eat root vegetable, but not every day. So every day the always dark green dish, either a stir fries or boil or soup. So green leaf soup, and then a salty dish can be a chicken, fish. So that I grew up with a lot of greens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for that, Emily. Yeah. Making me hungry. I love Vietnamese food.
And of course, rice. And back then, rice is a main dish, and the other dishes are side dish because we grew up poor during the war. But even rice a main dish, I remember, I'm 16, 17, and I had only one small bowl of rice. And my grandfather had probably half of the bowl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So thank you again, Emily. Great perspective. Great perspective. Yeah. And thanks for the question, David.
That answers the question. And now I'm going to take you down different rabbit hole on this, sort of on this subject, just for a second. And that is one of the things that I've appreciate and have not appreciated enough and not used enough is Voices of Health Point videos. And as I'm listening to this conversation, I'm thinking of a couple people who, once that gets uploaded, that I need to send this out to. And I'm just saying, just as a community, I needed this reminder. Just a couple days ago, somebody who I had talked with about becoming a coach in Health Point. She's a bodybuilder. I just said, as you know, as you work out this weekend, I encourage you to check out on YouTube Voices of Health Point 96, and that's the one on mentorship. This is a past recording on the importance of finding the right mentor. Begin at 3:30 and it ends at 11. Look around. There are other interesting topics that all lead back to Health Point program and community. Our community walks connects every Saturday at 8 a.m. And so just I need to remind myself that I need to be using these links with different people. When I hear them share their story of what their concern is, to be able to send them a link that talks about, resistance starch, that it's available. If we go through there, we've done so many now that there are so many great topics that we can go back to. So that's just a shout out to you, Eric, what you've put together for the community, and that I need to do, be more aware of being, along with the orange dots, of using our community recordings as a way of promoting our community and promoting the business. That's it.
Man, I love your rabbit holes, David. These are really, really great things. And I love how something that you said there, and I I want to really double click on it, because I think this is one of the biggest things, is that you said between you shared with your friend, your prospective person, from 3 minutes and 30 seconds to the 11-minute mark. Is, I might have those numbers wrong, but you gave them that window that's there. And that, I think, is gold, because if David was to share with me, if I was a prospect of David's and say, well, here's an episode, what do? We look at it and we see it's how long? Oh my gosh, this is an hour long. See ya, probably see ya, unless I'm really committed or something like that. But if somebody like David, who is first knowledgeable of the content themselves, right? They were on they were on it when the recording went, and then maybe has listened to the recording. They made the note of where it's most relevant to that person. Now he shares it over to me and says, hey, Eric, here is this, and you listen to it from 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 11. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant, because now I get the same hour-long program, but it's very clear where I can just kind of thumb scroll right into it. I get to that. Chances are good after I listen to that, and you alluded to this too, David, listen to the others. If I enjoy the content, I'm going to probably get into more of that. But on that first brush, I think one of the biggest things that we do for people in this, and we're all living fast-paced lives, and people, if they're trying to make changes and get healthier, one of the biggest things that we do is I use the term curate. Let's help people, whether it's a prospective client or prospective coach. Let's not just say, here, go do this, and dump a big load on them. Let's curate it. And that's what I think you did brilliantly, David. So thank you for that rabbit hole, that second rabbit hole. Love it. All right. Well, speaking of curation, our master curator, our wordsmith, reframer, Carol Zampo, we'd all love to hear about HollowCLEAN.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to shelf HollowCLEAN right now because we want to hear from Alex on it, and Alex is on his way to coaching. He's got a coaching class coming up. So I love your topic, Eric, because you're talking about the ethnicity, and this is looking at Health Point and beyond. I think we get in a little postage stamp size of who our Health Point clients are, when in fact, everybody's our Health Point client, and they come with different needs and different ethnicities and different walks in life. And so I thought it would be kind of fun for Alex to share. Alex, I'm not going to steal his wind here. He can tell you his background because talk about ethnicity. He is here from another part of the world, and just as an athlete, why Health Point is so important. So, Alex, I know that you've got to get out on the course, but if you could share with us for a few minutes some of your findings, even just being on the program for a short period of time here.
Hello, everybody. Well, thank you, Carol, for allowing me to speak. Yeah, my time window is a little small. Just a quick background from me. I'm originally from Greece, born and raised, and I came to the United States in 2019 to play D1 tennis in Georgia Southern University. So I've been around sports my whole life. I mean, tennis gave me a great opportunity and opened doors for me, mainly to come across the ocean and study and get a degree and just have wonderful experience all around the world. So yeah, currently I'm in New York coaching tennis as my main job, enjoying it well. Now a little more relevancy to my Health Point journey. I'm finishing up my second week. I have a lot of thoughts to share on that. And the biggest one is that such a great program. I've never felt better being in a program like this, but I wanted to mention to everybody, also to understand, my life as a student athlete consists of a lot of practice every day. Let's say about 20 to 22 hours of practice, 3-4 hours every day, tennis, fitness, weightlifting, matches. So on top of teaching classes. So it's a very heavy schedule, full-time athlete. Why I say all this is funny enough, yesterday, I was looking at some pictures of me from my college years. And I'm happy to tell you that now at this moment, I'm by far way more fit, way fitter, way better looking, way less body fat down than I was while being in school and being a student athlete and being a full-time athlete. I'm not a full-time athlete anymore. I mean, I exercise every day, but now it's probably 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Back then was 23 hours a week. I say all this because it comes hand to hand with the Health Point that the nutrition and what we put in our bodies is the 95%, I would say, as a personal experience. Back in school, I wasn't really paying attention. I wasn't educated enough on nutrition. I knew, of course, I was an athlete. I knew what I needed to do. But if you don't measure, if you don't pay attention to what you eat, distractions are a lot. I mean, I was at some point, I was 195 pounds. Let me tell you now, I'm 172 pounds healthy. And when I was 195, I was pure muscle and pure power. However, I was 195 pounds carrying all that on court. So as you can imagine, doesn't matter how much somebody trains, the priority is what we put in our bodies. And I can say positively now, I've never been fitter, healthier. Even though I'm on my second week on Health Point, I've already seen differences in these last couple of weeks in my body. I feel so much different. I see difference without my scale dropping a single pound. I've dropped 6 pounds in the past 3 weeks. The past 2 weeks, I haven't dropped any, but I already see my body being leaner, feeling better. So yeah, I just wanted to say how important the nutrition is, supplementing right, eating right, avoiding distraction, how small things like a Kit Kat over here, you know, we have Halloween. I had a lot of offers to get some candies, which I refused, which was great. Health Point has dropped my my desire of sweets by a lot, which I was very surprised. But yeah, small things add up, and it has to do with what we put in our bodies, the way we think. And again, I was full-time college student athlete practicing 25 hours a week. and yet I'm healthier now with way less practice, but with better nutrition. So yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. I feel like these ideas helped me a lot. I'm loving my time in the program. It's just amazing. It's better than I thought. I honestly thought cutting some carbs here and there, I would have a harder time on court because I'm on court for like 8 hours a day on an average day. But I haven't felt any energy dips. My energy is actually very stable. My glucose stays pretty stable. My mood is amazing. So yeah, it's been I'm in a very happy and good mental state. And of course, it has to do with a lot of how we think, what we put in our bodies, the right supplements, double X and omegas and the fiber and all that. But yeah, that was my personal experience on Health Point for now. And that's something I'm definitely going to maintain for the rest of my years and not allowing myself for that scale to go up again.
How do you think that the audios have helped you? Because I know that you listen to a lot of audios.
No, the audios are amazing. And again, it has to do with the habit of listening. And I've realized the more audios I listen to and the more of a habit this becomes, I'm a happier person overall. I think more clear. Obviously, the knowledge that they give you, all these audios, so much knowledge, but they just give you a way better way of thinking. Keep you disciplined in your day and your the mental shifts make within the make difference. Even though maybe you remember what you heard, but all these things add up in the long term.
So Alex, do you think there's a market out there for athletes for the Health Point program, learning exactly what you're learning?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, from my personal experience, at first I thought that if I have to speak to other athletes, why would I do it? Athletes are fit, athletes eat right, athletes are athletes. But it's not always like that. I'm a personal example of that. I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life, but my healthy habits go up and down a lot. So I feel like in a market that we think that might be a little bit closed of an athlete's market, it's just the other way around. And that's what I'm realizing too, because I thought it's a smaller market because people are athletes, but it's the other way around. Everybody can get to the program and everybody can get healthier and healthier.
And if if you've seen, excuse me, I'm sorry. If you've seen on our Health Point Eats, Alex has shown a couple of his meals, and obviously they're much larger quantities than a person that's wanting to lose weight, and a regular run-of-the-mill person on the program is not going to eat those quantities. But you got to also take into consideration the tremendous activity level. And so, like Eric was saying even earlier, ethnicity, athletes, these are all different takeoffs or different categories of people that sometimes things have to be adjusted. Alex goal was not to lose weight. He didn't need to lose weight. It was to change the weight from fat to muscle. And that's what he's experiencing now is the leaner look, the leaner feel, the leaner toxins in the mind, the toxicity, the habit forming and all this stuff. Because as a person less becomes an athlete, if they haven't learned those habits, Alex, you're going to be so glad you learned those habits right now.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us today, and happy coaching.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me and listen to me. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Back to you, Eric.
Wow. What a great segment. And playing on David Dassau's note earlier in terms of time stamping, that is around the 8:35 mark, or I guess it'll be, we'll see where that's at on the recording. But I made note of that because I'm thinking, wow, I need to share this over to people that are similar to Alex. What an amazing perspective he shares as an athlete, because again, you would think, does somebody that is like Alex you know, would I come up in an approach or have a conversation with somebody like Alex? Now I would. Thanks to Alex, I would approach somebody like Alex. I'd be like, you need to listen to this guy, or you should listen to this guy, or here, let me share this over. And to David's point, you know, and you know, just scroll forward to this timestamp. You know, he covers it in about 10 minutes and a really interesting perspective on a very successful formerly student athlete, now full on athlete, coach, and listen to what he has to say. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So what a piece of what a gem that is. So thank you, Alex, for sure. Perspective that we don't hear often. And thank you, Carol, for bringing us Alex. So
Well, I think sometimes we do categorize and get in a box. And I think creativity in the Health Point program is very valuable because, as Hank always reminds me, he's always saying Health Point is not just a weight loss program. It actually is a healthy living program. And so whether you're an athlete or whether you're 85 and you want to be healthy at 95 or whatever, it's a habit forming lifestyle. And all those other things will come. The meds will drop off, the weight will drop off, whatever has to drop off will when you make healthy choices. And even as an athlete, the choices I can see because I get his logs, the choices that Alex makes versus what he made before are different types of choices now. Just a lot more of your healthy stuff. And so it's a learning process, but I just wanted to kind of unpack that a little bit to help people realize that you can be very creative and reach out to a lot of people in different arenas. And those very people can reach out into the arenas that they live in, such as the athlete or the ethnic culture.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's great. That's really, really great. Totally agree. By the way, Carol, do I see you sporting the white version of the Health Point? Yeah.
I'd have my hat on, but I can't keep my hat on. The hat keeps flipping off on me. So, so yeah, these are really nice. And actually, it's the first day that we can wear them because it's warm down here. And I think it's probably in the low 60s, which is very chilly, very chilly. And I mean, for Florida. And I put this thing on, and I'll tell you what, it's warm. I'm sweating underneath this thing, but it's beautiful. Very, very good quality.
Yeah. Thank you, Network 21, for getting the
Yes.
Health Point swag.
Yes.
Really great. Well, don't know if you want to continue, Carol, but even Alex mentioned about how he was offered, choices of Halloween candy and stuff like that. We all experienced Halloween yesterday. And so can we hear your take on not Halloween, HollowCLEAN?
HollowCLEAN. Yeah, HollowCLEAN. Yes, absolutely. And this will be very short, but honestly, with all the reading I've been doing over these last months and years, my heart of hearts could just not go into a grocery store and pick up those I know I'm sounding like an old wet shirt, but those candies are poison to our children. Poison. There isn't a healthy candy in the batch. And when I see the kids consuming all of that, in my heart of hearts, I couldn't do it. And I started thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to do apples. So I got, I only got one bag because we never, ever get trick-or-treaters. Last night we had record numbers. I don't know what happened. Maybe the moon was right or something, but I had to actually go to the store and get more of them. But I gave out apples and some oranges when I ran out of the apples. And here's the response that I got from the kids. They walk up and they say, I said, you know what? I know you got a lot of candy in there. I'm going to give you an apple. And they would beam up and they would say, I love apples. And they'd all dig into the bowl and get their apple. And it was so fun to see these kids being excited over an apple. Now, I venture to say it's probably the only apple that they got all night long. And so it'll kind of stand out. It kind of reminds me of when I was a little girl and we used to go to this house on Halloween and she would serve hot dogs and buns. And I always remember that lady because I was going to get a hot dog. And then we'd stand right out on the road and eat the hot dog before we moved on. And it, still to this day, and this has been many years ago, I still remember the hot dog and bun. So why not let's start changing a little bit and helping our kids and helping the families, because moms can see that, oh, we can do this instead of this. And just being the example instead of just passing on all that sugar laden. And it's not just the sugar, it's the chemicals and everything in there and what it's doing to those little bodies. And the more apples that the kids eat and the less candy, the easier it's going to be on the moms to get them to bed that night for sure. So I would say, at first I was saying, I'm going to do a clean Halloween. And then I thought, I'm just going to change the whole name and I'm going to make it HollowCLEAN. And so that's what we did last night. So we had a HollowCLEAN and the kids loved it. And I gave every one of my pieces of fruit out. They cleaned me out of the house and home.
I love it. And you guys are going to be now, known in your block. Those kids are going to know, just like you knew when you were growing up, that, hey, if we go to Hank and Carol's place, we get the apple. It's great.
Well, I'm supposed to be the health coach and the power walker. So for me to pass out candy is a little bit, not very good. So I got to stand up to what I'm known about in the neighborhood.
Right.
They call that
Well,
an oxymoron.
Oxymoron. Thank you. That was a very good word. I
love
wanted
it.
to, can I just make one quick comment too?
Sure, absolutely.
This was an observation. This is a totally different topic, but I was interviewing a woman that had been trained in health coaching, certified, and she's looking to develop a whole health coaching business. And it was interesting because when I was talking to her, I asked her, well, when you come out, do you have like a clientele or what do you have? Because you spent multiple thousands of dollars on the certification. And she said, no, you're pretty much on your own. And she said, unless you get a job somewhere, which I didn't think she wanted to go into coaching to have a job. She wanted to go into coaching to have a business, her own business. And she said, then maybe you can get some clients from that. But maybe not too, because a lot of times there's limitations on that type of situation. But then I asked her, because I showed her the Neutralite products, and I said, one of the things we believe very heavily in is supplementing to fill in the nutritional gaps. And I said, do they do nutritional training and certification? And she said, very, very little, if none. And now that was her certification. Eric, I know you've had certifications, and so that might be different in your situation. I'm just saying that it was interesting to me that this woman spent multiple thousands of dollars on a year-long coaching program that did not teach her about supplementation and nutrition and filling in the nutritional gaps. That might not be in all certification programs, so I'm going to put a disclaimer on that. That just happened to be something that I point blank asked her, and she point blank told me. And so I said, well, we believe very heavily in supplementation as a good, healthy lifestyle program. So just wanted to give you that little clip from yesterday. So back to you, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. And I can say that I can see that. And of course it depends on the program and the certification and so forth like that. But, broadly speaking, just because someone is, certified as a coach doesn't necessarily mean that they have strong knowledge of micronutrients and supplementation and nutrition in that context. So, and just like we often cite too, just to kind of continue on that spectrum, is as a, classically trained, Western medicine MD may have had 0 to small single digit hours in nutrition, and this is a medical doctor that might have next to nothing. In fact, just saw a segment. I shared it over to Emily, a fresh segment on Dr. Peter Attia. Many people are familiar with him. And Carol, I know you've read his book, and he was being interviewed. It was a really great segment. And he made the comment there because he was kind of being questioned on something, kind of called out on kind of his critics. That was the context of it is, well, critics say blah, 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 blah about you. And he's like, look, maybe consider the source of your critics. Because they made the statement that these are other doctors, and he doesn't have a ton of critics, but in this context, they're trying to get these zingers in this interview. And they were like, well, these other doctors, some of them say this. And he's like, okay, consider the context. He said, I was Stanford educated in my medical education. And you know how many hours I got on nutrition? And the interviewer said, I'm guessing not many by the way you're posing that. He says, 0. I got 0. That's your answer. I got 0. So now he said, maybe things have changed a bit, in those years, but probably not much. So whether it's not to discount medical doctor or any physician, they have their own areas of specialty, but in terms of expecting them to have a deep knowledge of nutrition, probably not if they're classically trained like that. And to your point, Carol, if somebody is coming in even as a health coach, it is maybe not with too much on the knowledge of nutrition and micronutrients. Now, I will say, go ahead, Carol.
I'm sorry, I had another a little one-liner that kind of stymied me also, tying in with what you were saying, Eric, and it was a podcast I was listening to. I won't even mention the person's name because everybody would recognize them, and I don't want to ruin any names, but the interviewer was asking, and they got on the topic of calcium and vitamin D and all of that type of stuff. And the podcaster actually asked this person, well, what about K2? Isn't that supposed to take care of that? And honestly, I was stymied. The person said, I don't know anything about K2.
Wow.
I was flabbergasted. But I wasn't, because I went into my doctor a few months ago and we got on the topic of vitamin D and K2, and he didn't know anything about K2. This is he's a DO, so I did, because he's kind of both sides of the spectrum. And he didn't know anything about K2. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we better study up, because it's going to be up to us to know this stuff. And again, I'm not trying to blacken anybody's name. I'm just saying that these are observations here and there that I realize that, guys, all of you, don't shortchange yourself. Don't shortchange yourself. Get on these podcasts, listen, study Neutralite, study the power of magnesium and how it relates to vitamin D with K3 and the importance of taking those. Study those things, because they are all, we have such a wealth of knowledge when our products come out. And so anyway, those were just two observations that kind of stymied me. They surprised me, but they also alerted me. Study up, Carol. To thine own self be true.
Yeah.
Back to you, Eric.
Such a great point, and I think the perfect point for us to be ending on as we're wrapping up this segment. And by the way, for those that are new to the program or joining us live, we kind of wrap up with, again, you can unmute your microphones if you'd like to, and just kind of give a hoorah and yes,
Eric,
Hank.
can I just make one more comment on what Carol mentioned?
Yes.
We went to ophthalmologist because of cataracts and all that. And he knew, after he found out more about us, how nutritional knowledgeable we were. And he made a comment. He says, you guys have more knowledge on good nutrition than any doctor out there. This is the ophthalmologist told us this, okay? As we were walking out of the office. He promotes us to every one of his clients if they're looking for good nutrition. So I just want to share that with you.
Wow. That's another one that I'm going to peg the timestamp on this and maybe share it over to some eye doctors that I know, because what a great just experience that you and Carol are having, Hank. And you know, these eye doctors, I had a prospect come in that wants a session with me, and he was saying that he is you know, I asked, why, what's his motivation? And he said, well, diabetes or pre-diabetes. And so I asked him what his A1C number was, and he said he didn't know. And I said, well, how do you what makes you think that you're pre-diabetic? He said, my eye doctor.
Ooh.
Yeah. So to Hank, to your point, particularly if somebody is progressing on that diabetic spectrum, we all know or heard or seen, full on type 2 diabetics that maybe have gotten gangrene in their lower extremities, their toes, their feet, sometimes lower legs get amputated. But that's because of the small, capillaries that are very at risk with high blood sugar over time. But the other area are the eyes. And you hear of diabetics that have problems with their eyesight or go blind and so forth. So yeah, your eye doctor, Hank, that's awesome that your eye doctor is so much of an advocate and kind of a tailwind for you guys. I think the more and more of the, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, of the classical medicine, whether that be physicians or eye doctors, ophthalmologists, etc. And that's why we never want to alienate anybody, right? We don't do that. We point out, we call balls and strikes, but we don't try to alienate people. But these can be advocates. You can partner with them, like like Hank, like you're making note of there. What a great point there. So
and Hank, to think that you are 92 as of your last birthday and only just now having cataract surgery. That speaks volumes for the nutrition you've had to keep your eyes healthy through all these years.
For sure. Thank you for that, Pam. Well, guys, we could go all day. I'm sure we all enjoy this so much, but we do need to wrap it up. So what a great start to November here, November 1st, our first episode for this month. And we'll plan on seeing everyone next week, same time, same place. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.